The pen felt heavier than any weight I had ever carried as I stared at the thick stack of legal papers spread across the antique oak table in my father's study. My father's voice boomed through the room like thunder on a clear day. "Sign it, Lorraine, or consider yourself no longer part of this family and its legacy." The words cut deep because I knew he meant every syllable, especially after they discovered the photos of me and Lillian together at that private cabin upstate. My mother sat beside him, her eyes red from crying but her jaw set in that familiar line of disappointment I had seen since I was a teenager, coming out to them in secret. "You have brought shame on us all," she whispered, her voice breaking. "What will our friends say? What will the board think if this gets out? Our family built this real estate empire from nothing, and you want to throw it away for some woman from nowhere." I glanced at the contract again, the clause clear as day. In exchange for maintaining my position in the family and potential inheritance, I would renounce all claims if I continued the relationship with Lillian. It was an ultimatum wrapped in legal jargon designed to break me. The room felt suffocating with the weight of generations of expectations. My brother Marcus stood by the window, arms crossed, smirking slightly as if he had won some victory. He had always been the golden child, the one who would take over the company one day. How had it come to this? Just 6 months ago, life seemed full of promise. I had met Lillian at a charity gala for urban development in Manhattan. She was there representing her investment firm, or so I thought. Her confidence, her sharp intellect, and the way her eyes lit up when she talked about sustainable building projects drew me in immediately. We talked for hours that night about everything from architecture to the pressures of family expectations. She understood me in a way no one else ever had. Our connection was instant and deep. Soon we were sneaking away for weekends in the Hamptons or quiet dinners in Brooklyn where no one knew us. Lillian was everything I wasn't: outspoken, fearless, and unapologetically herself. She came from a modest background but had worked her way up in the finance world. Or at least that's what she told me. I never pressed because our time together was my escape from the rigid world of the Bennett family name. Being a Bennett in New York meant constant scrutiny. My father, Victor Bennett, the CEO of Bennett Developments, expected perfection. My mother, Eleanor, was the socialite who kept the image pristine. And me, Lorraine, the only daughter, was supposed to marry well, produce heirs, and support the family image. Coming out had never been an option in their eyes. I had tried once in college and it was met with such fury that I buried it deep. But with Lillian it was different. She made me feel alive, made me question the chains I had accepted. We fell in love quickly and fiercely. There were moments of pure joy, like when we danced in her apartment to old jazz records or cooked together, laughing at our terrible attempts at Italian recipes. She would hold me and whisper that love like ours was worth fighting for. But now here I was facing the ultimate test. My family had hired a private investigator after noticing my absences and changes in behavior. The photos were undeniable. Lillian and I kissing on a balcony overlooking the city. My father had exploded when he confronted me last week. "This ends now or you end up with nothing. We will not have our name associated with this lifestyle. Think of your future, Lorraine. Think of the company." I had argued back, tears streaming. "This is who I am. Lillian is not a phase. She's the person I want to build a life with." But my words fell on deaf ears. My mother begged me to think of the family reputation, the business deals that could fall through if word got out about the Bennett daughter being gay. Marcus even chimed in, saying it would affect stock prices. They painted it as my selfish choice destroying everything they worked for. The pressure built over days of meetings, lectures, and emotional blackmail. My father threatened to cut me off immediately: no job, no access to family accounts. My mother cried about how she couldn't show her face at the country club. It was relentless. Deep down I knew the inheritance wasn't just money. It was the culmination of my grandfather's dreams, my father's blood, sweat, and tears. It was my birthright, but at what cost? Could I really sacrifice the love that had given me purpose for a fortune that came with so many strings? Sitting there with the pen in hand, my mind raced through all the moments with Lillian. The way she looked at me like I was the only person in the room. The plans we made for a future where we didn't have to hide. But also the reality of what losing everything meant. No safety net, no support in the cutthroat world of New York business. I was good at my role in the company, managing development projects, but without the family name behind me, doors would close. I looked up at my father one last time. "Is this really what you want, Dad, to force me to choose between you and the person I love?" His eyes were cold. "It's not a choice, Lorraine. It's responsibility. Family comes first." Always has. My hand shook as I lowered the pen to the paper. The ink flowed, signing away my rights to the inheritance in the event I didn't comply with the breakup. It felt like signing away a piece of my soul. Tears blurred my vision, but I finished the signature. There. It's done, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. My father nodded, satisfied. Good. Now end it with her. No more contact or the deal is void, and we will make sure you have nothing. My mother reached out to hug me, but I pulled away. Marcus clapped slowly. Wise choice, sis. As I left the study, the weight of what I had done crashed over me. I had bought time, but at what price? Lillian deserved better than this secrecy and now this betrayal. I pulled out my phone, my fingers hovering over her name. How could I tell her that I had just signed a contract to potentially erase our future? The drive to her apartment was a blur of city lights and regret. I had to see her face to face. When she opened the door, her smile faded immediately, seeing my expression. Lorraine, what happened? Come in. Inside her cozy living room filled with books and plants that made it feel like home, I broke down. I told her everything: the confrontation, the contract, the ultimatum. She listened silently, her face a mask of pain and understanding. When I finished, she pulled me into her arms. You signed it, she said softly. I nodded against her shoulder. I didn't know what else to do. They would have cut me off completely. But I don't want to lose you. Lorraine pulled back, looking into my eyes. I know, baby. This isn't your fault. Your family is toxic with their expectations and prejudice. But we can figure this out. Maybe we lay low for a while, pretend to break up until we have a plan. Her strength amazed me, but I saw the hurt in her eyes. The woman who had always fought for us was now being asked to hide again. I felt like the worst person for putting her through this. As we held each other that night, I wondered if love could survive such a test, or if I had already paid too high a price. The coming days would reveal just how deep the wounds would go, and whether my decision was the beginning of the end or a necessary sacrifice for something greater. The coming days would reveal just how deep the wounds would go, and whether my decision was the beginning of the end or a necessary sacrifice for something greater. The morning light filtered through the curtains of Lorraine's apartment as I lay there staring at the ceiling. My phone had already buzzed with messages from my father confirming the contract was filed and demanding proof that I had ended things with Lillian. Proof. As if our love was something to be deleted like a bad investment. Lorraine made coffee in the kitchen, her movements deliberate but her usual energy dimmed. I knew she was processing the betrayal, even if she understood the impossible position I was in. We have to make it look real, she said, handing me a mug. At least for now. Post some vague breakup status or let them see us not together. I can handle it, Lillian. But you have to decide what you really want long term. Her words stung because I knew she was right. I had chosen the path of least resistance in the moment, but now the reality of pretending to be apart felt like slow poison. I left her apartment that afternoon with a heavy heart. The drive back to my family's estate in the suburbs of New York was filled with dread. When I arrived, my mother was waiting in the foyer, her arms open for an embrace that felt more like a cage. I'm so proud of you, darling, she said, her voice sweet but her eyes calculating. This is for the best. You'll see. We've scheduled a family dinner tonight to celebrate your wise choice. Marcus will be there too. Celebrate. The word made me nauseous. At dinner, the conversation was all about how I had saved the family name. My father raised a glass to new beginnings and keeping our legacy intact. Marcus smirked across the table. See, Lillian, I told you it was just a phase. You'll meet a nice guy from the right circles soon enough. The casual homophobia in his tone, the way they erased Lillian as if she was nothing, made my blood boil. But I bit my tongue. I had signed the paper. Now I had to play the part. That night I cried in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by trophies and photos of the perfect Bennett daughter. The internal conflict tore at me. Was I a coward for signing? Was protecting the love by hiding it better than losing everything? The pressure from society was real. In our circles, being lesbian was still whispered about in scandalous tones. Business partners might pull out, sponsors would hesitate. My family had drilled into me that image was everything. But deep down I knew it was fear talking. Fear of losing the only world I knew. Over the next week I avoided Lillian as much as possible to sell the breakup. We communicated through encrypted messages, but each one was laced with pain. She told me about her work, her meetings with investors, but there was a new edge to her words, a determination I hadn't fully noticed before. One message stood out. Don't worry about me, Lil. I have resources you don't know about. We will turn this around. I wondered what she meant but brushed it off as her optimism. Then the social fallout hit. At a company event, my colleagues gave me pitying looks. Someone had leaked that I was single again after a mysterious relationship. The questions were subtle but pointed. So glad you're back on track, Lillian. The right path is important for someone in your position. I smiled through it all, but inside I was screaming. The loneliness was crushing. Lorraine's absence left a void that no amount of family approval could fill. One evening my father called me into his office again. The company is expanding, Lillian, and with you focused we can secure that major deal with the city council. No more distractions. He patted my shoulder like I was a child who had learned her lesson. But his words felt like another chain. I realized then how conditional their love was. It was based on compliance, not on who I truly was. Meanwhile, Lillian was handling her side with grace that humbled me. When we met secretly in a small cafe in Queens, she held my hand under the table. I know this hurts, she said, her eyes fierce. But remember why we fight. Love isn't just the happy moments. It's the hard choices too. She shared more about her past, how she had fought her way from foster care to top of her field through smart investments. There was steel in her that I admired. Little did I know then how that steel would reshape everything. The days turned into a tense routine of lies and longing. I threw myself into work at the company, managing projects with mechanical efficiency. But at night the doubts flooded in. Had I made the right choice by signing? Was I sacrificing my happiness for a family that saw my love as a liability? The moral dilemma weighed heavy. On one side was duty, tradition, and security. On the other was authenticity, love, and the unknown. Society told me to conform. My heart screamed otherwise. The first crack in the facade came when my best friend from college called. She had heard rumors and confronted me. Lillian, I saw you with that woman before. Don't let them bully you into this. You deserve to be happy. Her words sparked a small fire of resistance in me. Maybe I didn't have to lose everything. Maybe there was a way to fight back without immediate destruction. As the weeks passed, the family seemed to relax their grip, believing they had won. But I could feel the storm brewing. Lillian had mentioned in passing that she was looking into Bennett Developments more closely for investment purposes. I didn't think much of it then. How could I know that her quiet moves were positioning her as the silent force that could upend our world? The price of my signature was becoming clear, not just in lost moments with the woman I loved, but in the slow realization that my family's control was more fragile than I ever imagined. And I was about to learn that some secrets had the power to rewrite the rules entirely. The next few weeks blurred into a haze of forced normalcy that left me exhausted in ways I never imagined possible. I went through the motions at the office in Midtown, where towering glass buildings reflected the gray skies, matching my inner turmoil exactly. Client meetings about new condo projects in Brooklyn felt empty without the passion Lillian had once inspired in me for sustainable designs and community-focused planning. One afternoon, my mother summoned me to her home office, the one overlooking Central Park, and announced she had arranged a small gathering for the weekend. Just a few friends and some nice young men from good families, she said with a smile that never reached her eyes. It will help you move on, dear. You need to think about your future properly. The implication hung heavy in the air. No more mistakes like Lillian. The party took place at our Hamptons estate, the sprawling property where I had spent childhood summers dreaming of a life beyond the family expectations. Lanterns dotted the lawn and the air carried laughter and clinking glasses. But for me it was a stage I had to perform on. My mother introduced me to several eligible bachelors, each one more predictable than the last. One, a lawyer from a connected firm, droned on about his yacht and how family values mattered most. I nodded politely, but inside I felt like I was suffocating under the weight of their assumptions. The prejudice surfaced in casual conversations that cut like hidden blades. One woman remarked how fortunate the family was to avoid that kind of scandal that could derail real estate partnerships with conservative investors. I overheard my father in the study with board members discussing how my relationship could have cost millions in lost deals. If that had continued, it would have tanked our reputation in the industry. Their words confirmed the deep-seated homophobia that ran through every layer of our world. The pressure built until my chest tightened, and I excused myself to the bathroom for a panic attack. Sitting on the cold tile, I struggled to breathe through the tears, wondering if this was the life my signature had bought me, a life of pretense and silent suffering. Later that night, I risked everything to slip away and meet Lillian in a quiet park in the city. Under a dim streetlight, she pulled me into a tight hug, and I whispered that I could not keep doing this without her. She stroked my hair and said, "I know, but stay strong. I am working on something that could change everything. Do not ask for details yet, but trust me." Her words sparked a flicker of hope, yet also curiosity about what she was planning. Back home the following day, I reviewed company reports out of habit and noticed unusual activity: large blocks of shares acquired by an anonymous entity over recent months. It seemed odd, but I did not connect the dots then. The moral struggle intensified as I watched my family celebrate their supposed victory over my identity. Marcus joked at breakfast, "Glad you saw the light, sis, no more drama." The way they dismissed Lillian as nothing but drama shattered my heart again. I questioned my decision every hour. Was signing that contract a betrayal of my true self, or a calculated move to keep options open? Social isolation deepened as old friends distanced themselves after the rumors spread. I felt utterly alone, even surrounded by people who claimed to care. Yet in quiet moments I clung to memories of Lillian's quiet strength. It was that resilience that kept me going as subtle shifts began appearing in the business landscape around us. The company faced unexpected challenges, and I wondered if it was mere coincidence or the start of something far larger. My awakening was slow, but the ground beneath the family empire was already shifting, and I stood caught between the world I knew and the one I craved. The tension escalated when Marcus began watching me more closely than ever before. One evening he cornered me in the family library, his face twisted with suspicion. "I know you are still seeing her," he hissed. "Do not think we are blind to your little games." The confrontation exploded into a heated argument, where he revealed the root of the family prejudice. "Father always said women like that ruin legacies," and Mother agreed, "because it does not fit our image." His words exposed the toxic core I had tried to ignore for years. I fought back with everything I had, accusing him of spying and betraying his own sister. The fight drew my father in, and the three of us clashed in voices that echoed through the house. He demanded loyalty above all else, reminding me of the contract and the consequences of breaking it. I left the room shaking with rage and a new clarity. Their love had never been unconditional, it was a tool for control. That night I risked another secret meeting with Lillian in a hidden spot in Brooklyn. We shared a vulnerable moment in her car, reaffirming our love through tears and promises. She held my hand and said, "I have been building something for us for years. There is more at stake here than you know." I admired the steel in her voice but still did not grasp the full picture. The days that followed brought more family pressure as they pushed me toward arranged social events and subtle threats about my job security. I threw myself into work to distract from the pain, but every decision felt tainted by the knowledge that I had traded my authenticity for temporary peace. The moral dilemma deepened as I weighed the cost of my signature against the growing realization that the family dynamics were built on fear and conformity, rather than genuine care. Society reinforced the message that I should conform for success, but my heart knew better. As boardroom tensions rose over a stalled project, I noticed more anonymous investor activity in the reports. Lillian had hinted at her influence in the finance world, but I never suspected how close it was to our world. The betrayals mounted when Marcus leaked a private email to my mother, who then confronted me in tears about how I was destroying everything. The argument left me drained yet strangely empowered. I was beginning to see the cracks in the empire, and the price I had paid was opening my eyes to the truth. Lillian's support through encrypted messages kept me going. She reminded me that the hard choices were what defined us. Little by little the facade crumbled, and I prepared for the storm that was coming. The family control I had protected with my signature was proving more fragile than anyone realized, and the woman I loved held keys none of them suspected. The company crisis hit like a storm no one saw coming. A major development project in downtown Manhattan collapsed under a sudden scandal involving regulatory issues, and the stock price plummeted overnight. Emergency board meetings turned chaotic as panic spread through the executive floors. My family gathered in the conference room, their faces pale as they scrambled for solutions. I sat there listening to their desperate plans, feeling the weight of my own divided loyalties. During one heated session, an anonymous shareholder began casting proxy votes that opposed key decisions, blocking the family from regaining control. My father demanded answers about who this mystery investor was, and suspicion turned toward me when they questioned my recent behavior. Mother pulled me aside later, her voice trembling with anger. "How can you stand by while our legacy crumbles? Is this the price of your so-called honor?" The confrontation exposed the deep fractures in our relationship. I defended myself, pointing out that the family had brought this on through their rigid control and refusal to adapt, but inside I was torn between the old life I had signed to protect and the new path calling me forward. The social prejudice that had forced my hand now seemed to mock the very stability they claimed to defend. Colleagues whispered about the family drama, and old allies distanced themselves. In the midst of the chaos, I met Lillian in a discreet location where she finally shared more about her moves. She spoke of years of strategic investments aimed at creating a safer future for us, but still held back the full scope. Her calm determination contrasted sharply with my family's desperation, and it gave me the courage to question everything again. The moral reckoning reached its peak as I lay awake at night weighing the sacrifices. Had signing the contract saved me or trapped me in a web of regret? The family accused me of disloyalty, while I saw their actions as the real betrayal of love and acceptance. Tensions peaked in a late-night argument with my father where he admitted the contract was about more than money, it was about preserving the image at any cost. His words broke something in me, and I realized the price I had paid was not worth the illusion of security. As the boardroom battles intensified, the anonymous influence grew stronger, forcing the family to face the possibility of losing their grip on the empire they had built. I stood at the center of it all, my decisions now leading to consequences none of us had anticipated. The awakening was painful but necessary, and Lillian's presence, even from afar, reminded me that some bonds were stronger than any contract. The shareholder meeting became the final battlefield where everything converged in a single explosive moment. The boardroom was packed with tension as my family presented their recovery plan, only to be met with overwhelming opposition from the majority shareholder bloc. When the doors opened and Lillian walked in flanked by her legal team, the room fell silent. She revealed herself as the largest shareholder, having acquired controlling interest through her investment firm over the past years, all to secure a future free from the prejudices that had nearly destroyed us. My father's face drained of color as he realized the woman he had forced me to abandon now held the keys to the empire. Accusations flew from both sides, with my family labeling it the ultimate betrayal and me standing to defend the choices that had led us here. The emotional climax unfolded in raw confrontations where years of suppressed pain poured out. Mother wept about the family legacy while Marcus stormed out in defeat. I faced them with the truth that their demand for conformity had pushed me to the edge, and Lillian's power had only exposed the fragility they refused to acknowledge. In the end, I chose to stand openly with Lillian, facing the fallout together as the family lost portions of control, but gained a harsh lesson in acceptance. We walked out of the building hand in hand into the New York streets where the city lights seemed brighter than before. The sacrifices had been immense: lost relationships, damaged trust, and the emotional scars that would take time to heal, but the freedom we gained felt like a new beginning. Reflecting on every decision, the pressure, the confrontations, and the prices paid, I realized the journey had transformed me from a woman bound by expectation to one who chose authenticity despite the cost. In the face of such impossible choices between family legacy and authentic love, did signing that contract make me a traitor to my bloodline or the hero of my own story?